Hello, this is the review for the Hobbymate 5-in-1 power distribution board. The board came packaged from Amazon in this cardboard box. Inside the box was this padded mailer. Let's open it up and we'll see what's inside. So inside we have a power distribution board and a receiver lead and some standoffs. The standoffs are a nice touch. So let's open it up and check it out a little closer. Okay, so it looks like it comes with some detailed instructions. It has descriptions of each one of its 5 functions. So first off, it's a power distribution board. It handles 20 amps per ESC with a peak of 25. It has a 5 volt BEC output regulated to plus or minus 0.1 volts. Efficiency is 95%. It's got a rating up to 3 amps. So the 12 volt output is regulated to plus or minus 0.3 amps. This is for 4 to 6S operation. And also it has a continuous current capability of half an amp or 500 milliamps. So the third function is the LED light controller. It can control up to 4 pairs of LED light pads. All of these are regulated at 5 volts. The fourth function is the lost plane finder. This connects up to one of the auxiliary channels. And the fifth function is the low voltage alarm. This will obviously measure and sound the buzzer if the voltage gets too low below a threshold, which you can select on the board. So taking a look at the board a little closer, we can see that we have the pads for connecting the battery. We have pads for each one of 4 ESCs. These are in each corner. We have the 12 volt output. We have the 5 volt output. We also have pads for connecting to the LEDs, 4 of them. And we have a connector to connect your receiver wire to your receiver to control some of the other functions. We also have a button here that you use to select the low voltage beeper threshold for either 3.4, 3.5, and 3.6 volts. Of course, this is the beeper, and it's pointing and directed off sideways, so the sound will come out from the side, as not to, because you'll know you'll have another board up on top of this typically in your installations. So on the back, looks like it has the description of each one of the different functions as well. Alright, so let's wire it up and see how each one of the functions works. Okay, as far as weight and dimensions, the board weighs 9 grams. The hole spacing is 30.5 millimeters between each hole, and the holes are 3 millimeters in diameter. So this is the standard spacing that you would have. So this is the back side, so this is where the board would normally connect on the other side, but you can see here this is the standard spacing for quadcopters. Okay, here we are all hooked up. I've got the power distribution board connected to the auxiliary channel on a receiver. I have the power input to the distribution board running through a voltage regulator in order for me to be able to change the voltage to simulate a low voltage condition. I'm measuring that voltage on this digital voltmeter. So let's go ahead and power it up. Okay, so we have some LEDs reading out on the power distribution board. You see here that I've selected 3.5 volts as my low voltage threshold. The 12 volt output is lit up, as well as the 5 volt output. So I can measure these voltage outputs. I'll be reading this on this digital voltmeter. So measuring the 12 volt first. See there it's within tolerance of 12 volts. Then we'll measure the 5 volt output. Very close to 5 volts. We'll also see that through the receiver wire that the receiver is being powered by 5 volts. See that here. So there's no need to hook up like you would on a typical power distribution board, have to hook up the 5 volt output to your receiver. So in order to change the voltage threshold, you simply hold down this little button, and after a moment it'll start flashing and you can change and select the one that you want. So you have 3.6 volts, 3.5 volts, 3.4 volts, and off. So I'm going to go back to 3.5 volts, and then if you give it a moment, it'll take that reading and save it. So now to simulate the low voltage threshold, I have it set to 3.5 volts. The fact that the voltage from this pack is seen within the 4-cell range, it should alarm at 3.5 times 4, which is 14 volts. So we'll turn it down here. You see it coming down. And when it reaches the 14 volts, it'll start alarming. So as long as it stays below 14 volts, it's going to continue to alarm until I increase it above 14 volts, at which point it quits. If I go back down below it again, you also see that it's flashing the LED. And going above it again. Alright. Now there's two other functions that are both controlled off your auxiliary switch. You'll see the instructions recommend hooking up to the channel that's controlled by your 3-way switch. So on my radio it's this switch here. So if I were to move the switch into the up position, it turns on the LED. Middle position is off, up position is on. So once I'm turn it on, there's 3 different modes for the LEDs. There's constant, there's a slow flash, and then there's a fast flash. So the way to switch that is you turn it on, turn it back off, and turn it on again, and that'll increment it to the next mode. And then you do that again, and it increments it to the next mode. So that's the fast flash. So again, to go back to constant, one toggle will be slow flash, second toggle will be fast flash. You go back to off position. Now of course I only have one of the LEDs hooked up, but you can hook up 4 LEDs on the board. The next function is a lost model function. So with this, when you use the same 3-way switch and you go into the down position, it'll beep the buzzer and it'll flash the LED. As you can hear, it's very loud. Shouldn't have any trouble finding this in tall grass. and again come up and it turns it off. So that concludes the setup for the Hobbymate 5-in-1 power distribution board. Thank you for watching.